I would live in a big, open field of wheat. Amber waves of grain. It would sort of be like giant, honey-colored trees. It would be so fun to dance in the beautiful barley, whether the moon was shining its silver light or the sun was illuminating its glow. Whenever my life would get a little heavy, I'd be able to look at the big golden rods and remember that life is just a flow, sort of like the waves that the winds make in the wheat. If I were a mouse, I would live in a city of mice. There would perhaps be a metropolis of inner city mice, and there would be all different colors of mice, living in harmony with one another. Perhaps even other species, maybe little moles, maybe snails, maybe even some fairies. The job market would not be crashed. If I were a mouse, it would be much easier to afford a home. Since I'm such a hard worker and I have enough acorns, which is our currency, saved up, I'd be able to buy myself a beautiful teapot to live in. A beautiful porcelain pink with a gold lining, and I would buy it for 1,000 acorns. And it would be really hard to buy things with 1,000 acorns because acorns are really big. So my question would be, if acorns are the currency, where are we storing the acorns? Perhaps underground. Maybe if I was a mouse, the way that society would work is everyone keeps their money underground and everyone has sort of their own little personal bank of acorns under their home. The teapot would be a little old. I'm just saying, if there's a couple cracks in the ceramic, I'm not gonna be upset, you know. I'm a hard-working mouse and I know how to patch up holes in ceramic. I would use the natural resource of clay found in riverbeds and probably use that to patch up the porcelain. Above my mantle, I would have a very, very large painting that I did myself of me, my wife, and my 2 daughters. I would be straight if I was a mouse. If I was a mouse, we would probably be pretty behind on modern day human politics. And I do think that in a homophobic society of mousedom, I probably would have suppressed my homosexuality at a young age. And I would probably use all of that rage built up inside me to be the hard worker that I am today. What's my job? Oh yeah, I am a cobbler. I make shoes for other mice. Maybe because we're still pretty behind as a society, I might be a little racist to the other creatures who live in the city, probably. Especially if I were to have to see snails, you know? They don't have feet, I can't sell them things, and I would say some maybe unbecoming things of snails. I would have had so many mouse brothers and sisters, probably a dozen of each gender. And again, since no gay, there probably no non-binary, right? And if I were to have a color, I would be a calico colored mouse. I would have a big, beautiful, round, brown spot around my eye, and it would separate me from the others. Just enough for me to feel special, but not actually special enough to provide anything to the table. I would probably drink out of acorn cups too, which is maybe gonna interfere with the economy because acorns are also the currency. So I'm thinking that maybe it's like the acorn caps, but then I'm sort of like, if acorns are currency, how are acorn caps like cups? Maybe acorn caps are more like bowls, and that provides even more instability for the economy. It was made by mice. I think you should have maybe expected that. I would have a car, and that car would be a very large toad who's not very good at getting from point A to point B. A big bullfrog who's green and slimy, and I can never really fit the twine on him like a rope, because I'm sure I would need some sort of twine or rope to keep him leashed in the front yard. I have a front yard. I'd probably live close to a big tree. Sort of one of those patches in a field where it's like kind of barren land underneath and just a big tree. I really probably wanted to live in the knot in the tree in the teapot, but I'm sure they're like mice aren't that strong. I don't know if mice would be able to get a teapot up into the knot of the tree, and I'm sure it would have been more acorns that I didn't have saved up. But it's actually probably a blessing in disguise, because when my friend Jason, who was a mouse in this reality, I'm not friends with anyone named Jason in real life though. Jason would probably have gotten swept up by a crow or something, because the crow could see him from the knot in the tree. And so I'm actually still sort of recovering from the death of my friend Jason from that crow. And I think maybe me wanting to live in the knot of a tree was maybe for me to maybe go and find some closure. Maybe see if I could have lived Jason's story and got a different ending. Or maybe it's sort of a Meredith Grey situation where I'm not necessarily trying to not die. Maybe I'm just a bit not suicidal, but I would say I have a little bit of like suicidal ideation because of the fact that my friend Jason was just swept up by a crow. And that it did make me really think about some stuff, because I had a friend who was a crow when I was really young. It was back before the mouse versus crow war started. And so I know tensions have really been high in my sort of environment because of the mouse crow war, and it did form a wedge between me and my crow friend. His name's also Jason, unrelated to the Jason who passed away via crow. It sort of felt like serendipity, but like the bad version of serendipity, like Jason Dippity. I remember one day when I was cobbling shoes in my cobble shop for a mouse. It was the day the mouse crow war started. I was watching some Disney Channel original movies, which we do get. There is television, and I can't really explain it to you. We do have television, though. That's what I can tell you, and I can't tell you more. The Mouse Kingdom, I mean, there's more than just mice. Okay, I'm sorry. That was insensitive. The little creature in the hay community, the little creature in the wheat community, they don't like me talking about this even. You're lucky to sort of get as much of the story as you're getting. I don't want you to be all like, well, I'm entitled to knowledge. Like, guys, I'm giving you this information. You don't need to poke and prod. Please don't be leaving in the comments how we get television in the little creature in the wheat community. I'm not legally allowed to say anything about that. So I was watching a Disney Channel original movie known as Girl vs. Monster, because it's Halloween time in this part of the story, if I were a mouse. I remember seeing like a crow land in front of my shop. He spread open his cloaca, did a big poopy on my front porch, and then called me a cuck. And I heard that happen to my other friend, whose name is also Jason, unrelated. He's a squirrel. And Jason was telling me, he was like, dude, over at my hoagie shop, a crow did the same thing. So that's when we found out that there were a bunch of crows just like absolutely trolling the little creatures in the wheat community. You know, my dad's a veteran, and that makes me have complicated feelings about this whole situation, because I had to grow up on a military mouse base in Cancun. I remember we had prom at the battle station during one of the wars, and dude, my freaking prom date just like absolutely blew the hell up in front of me. And you don't think that mice have like bombs, and they don't. I'm getting really way too into war. If I were a mouse, the mouse religion would, I mean, probably have something to do with cheese. Yeah, I think we'd worship some sort of like cow, maybe big cow. Maybe one day a cow was grazing the field and we saw big udders and we were like, oh my God. And maybe the big udders like leaked some milk into the wheat community and we found a way to make cheese. So cheese is like diamonds to us, because we're nowhere near like normal human city. So when we discovered cheese on our own, it was like, this is the only time a cow is ever going to exist to us, because we don't know if another cow is coming. We just got this like golden scenario of a cow squirting a little milk by accident into our community, and we've made cheese from it, and it's like continuing to age. So it's been like tens and tens of years, because like obviously these mice develop really fast, like tens of years is actually hundreds of years, this cheese is like slowly aging into this beautiful like blue cheese situation. And so blue cheese may be a bit of like if something crazy is gonna happen, maybe the religion of the city is like using the blue cheese to bless our veterans going into war. Maybe it's like if you're about to go into battle, like may the cow god we serve's blue cheese do you well in war. And that's why we've lost every war we've been a part of, because the mice are bloated and gassy from all the blue cheese they have to eat. If I were a mouse, my bed would be a bunch of napkins I've neatly folded up in the corner of my teapot. And I do think my teapot would have 2 stories for some reason. I just sort of have that feeling. And if I were a mouse, my pillows and blankets would also be tissues. I think my side table would be an acorn as well, which provides another issue for the economy, but don't think about that because mice don't really know how to run an economy. I would write with, I'd probably just dip one of my little mice nails, claws, I guess you would call them. We call them nails, please don't call them claws, actually, it makes us uncomfortable. We would dip our nails in like ink or something, and I don't really know how we get ink, maybe it's blackberry juice, that's silly and fun. And we do use like regular paper. We did end up actually getting like kind of regular copy paper somehow as well. I can't tell you about it. We do have copy machines, and we love to make origami. That's a big thing in the mouse community. I remember one day in school, I was in origami class. It was our only art elective. It's the only art we've adopted. And when I was doing origami, I started beatboxing because because the origami just got me so excited. I started beatboxing. My teacher was like, "What's that?" And I was like, "It's this new thing I'm thinking about that I heard called that I invented actually, called music." And they're like, "What's music?" It's not origami. So I'm confused. And then that was how I sort of discovered music in the mouse community. I invented music. So I have this wife and these kids, and I really don't like one of my daughters, but I can't tell them that. It's like crazy predicament for me to be in. I hate one of my kids and I just can't do anything about it. And I try to talk about this with my wife. I've gone, Leslie, I hate our daughter, Amanda. And she'll go, Jude, that's crazy. You can't just tell me that. Like, what do you want me to? I'm trying to be there for you. Like, obviously, I want a relationship to work out, right? We've been married for so long, but I don't even know how to take in that information. And I'm like, I understand, but I think we just need to get rid of her. And my wife, Leslie, is like, are you threatening the life of our daughter? And I'm like, I mean, I don't like her. What else am I supposed to do? I can't do anything all day because I have to take care of one of the children. And it's so annoying. I want to play Mario Kart. We have Nintendos down here. It's like an arcade because it's so big for us. And my wife, Leslie, is like, I just don't... This is so much for me to take in right now. After this horrible toad crash I just got in that has left me scarred, you're talking about killing one of our daughters. And I'm like, it really sucks to not be understood in this house. So I leave. I walk out of our teapot and I take the toad on a drive. I was drinking a little, so I'm taking the toad out for a drive and I'm headed to the local bar. And so I stop there, I tie up the toad to the front, and there's like a bunch of toads because everyone drives a toad. And it's sort of weird how every little creature in the little creatures in the wheat community kind of has consciousness except for toads. And then the frogs actually have consciousness, just not the toads. And that is when I found out frogs and toads were different creatures technically. And it's just really, it felt like a weird lapse in judgment by God to have the toads not have consciousness. Or maybe we just have consciousness figured out weird. Again, we worship a big cow who squirted milk on us, so we invented blue cheese, and we can't sing. All we can do is origami. So now that I'm feeling all complicated about religion, I'm gonna get super, super drunk at this bar. And I go in the bar and there's this gopher making fuck me eyes at me, and I'm like, okay, I'm married, but I'm obviously super gay and super repressed, and I grew up in a super Christian family. So if this male gopher and I want to do something, I might be open to it, but I kind of keep to myself in the corner of the bar. I don't want to cause a fuss, and I know that being gay is illegal, so I'm not gonna do any, I'm not gonna just go up to the gopher, you know what I mean? And then this girl from my high school is there, and I'm like, oh my God. That's why I hate my daughter. She reminds me so much of that girl. So I start screaming at this woman at the bar. She's a mouse too. I eventually get kicked out because I start barking like a dog, and everyone gets really scared, because one time there was a dog in the wheat and it was just really scary. He didn't really do anything. It was just really scary. I mean, this giant, but I guess the cow was scarier, but maybe because it's scarier, that's why we decided to make a religion about him. Be not afraid is said in the Bible, the cow Bible that we have. That's pretty much everything in your Bible, just with cow instead of God. If I were a mouse, I would probably serve time in jail. I would serve time in jail because I verbally assaulted a woman, and also when I was in jail, I found out that I didn't tie up the toad good enough, and the toad ran away with one of the other toads, and they're getting married now. And so I'm like, so toads are conscious. That's kind of weird that we have been using them as travel devices. So I come home after my wife pays for my bail, and I look my daughter in the eyes and I go, you know what? I know that we've had a rocky relationship, but I accept you for the child you are, and I'm sorry for the way I behaved. So after this very sobering moment as an adult mouse, I sort of come to. So I talk to my wife, my mouse wife, after thanking her for paying for my bail, and I'm like, look, Leslie, I'm gay. I'm really gay. And Leslie's low-key kind of like a fruit fly. So she's like, wait, sister. And I'm like, wait, sister, what is going on? And she's like, girl, this finna tea. Like, I'm kind of gagged right now. And then I'm like, girl, you're gagged? Like, I am kind of gagged right now. Should I go for that gopher? And she's like, girl, yeah, I think you should just go for it. So then me and the gopher start dating, and then we get gay married because Mouse Society gets all like different. And now Mouse Society is like super anti-cow, and we fucking threw away all of that cheese. And I have a gopher boyfriend, and we do pride in the wheat field community every June, just like human beings. I think being a mouse would be virtuous. I think being a mouse would be difficult. I think being a mouse, while there are many benefits, there are many things about being a mouse that maybe I wouldn't prefer. But overall, I think that I am able to connect with my soul in a way where I can be comfortable as maybe any creature. Maybe a snail, maybe a crow, maybe a fish. There are so many lives that I can live, and it's just a joy that I happen to be in this one for its little quirks. So if I were a mouse, I'd be okay. Kiss me on the mouth. Good night. I love you.